What's happening, Pod Squad? Welcome into another episode of the show. I am joined today across the continent. That's usually the case anyways. This is what happens when you're in Northwest Canada, Jim. Like, everyone's across the continent, like, whatever. I'm joined today by Jim Williams. Jim, how are you today?
Happening. I am awesome, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, pleasure's ours. So for those of you who don't know who Jim Williams is, I will introduce. Director of Member Strategy and one of the executive coaches at an organization that I am deeply connected to and fond of, which is Top Contractor School. So his role is basically to help contractors scale, grow membership within the community of Top Contractor School, which I would say he does a phenomenal job at because he bounces ideas off me all the time of people to get in. And pretty unique background, pretty dynamic. Sales, branding, leadership, a lot of sales. Yep. And you have a passion for like blue collar entrepreneurs to help them reach their potential. So I think that the stuff we're going to jam out here for 30 to 40 minutes is probably going to help some people. So I'm excited, man. Yeah. You want to give us the 2-minute version where you got started, why you're here, what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, background for me, man. I feel like I've been selling my entire life, and it's funny that my interpretation of selling is probably different than what people's perception is. So, I mean, for me, I feel like I've always been that dot connector for people. Connecting the right people together with the right fit of either a product or a solution or a software or something that was a value add for them, whether it was me or a partner or somebody that was in a different space. I feel like just that networking aspect has always been a strong suit for me. So I started at an early age door knocking, selling stuff in my neighborhood door to door, and fundraising. And I feel like I learned a ton from my mother, who was very similar. She just was that dot connector, and made a ton of relationships with the right people, and was able to bridge people between each other. And I learned a ton from her. But growing up, I had a 27-year career at Verizon. I led diverse teams, anywhere from retail store management, which I was in for about 10 years. I moved over into the B2B space and led small to medium business teams, major account teams, national enterprise level teams. I always say if there was a city with a building that had a name on it, that was probably one of the accounts that we had. So, those are the type of accounts that my last role encompassed, was leading a team that had 66 accounts across the country. And, I had 6 people on the team that were selling, and bringing them along and coaching, and all of the aspects involved with developing the sales team. So that's a short 2-minute version, I think.
I love it. Did you say that you were at where you were at? Because you were in the telecom space, right?
Yeah, Verizon, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Verizon Business was my home for 27 years in corporate America. And it's interesting because in the B2B space, and in even retail for that matter, there was a predominant engagement that we had with contractors. It was for B2B, you think of the small to medium sized contractors that, like, under 50 employees. There was a robust amount of contractors that were in each of the territories that our teams had. So, there was a diverse engagement across really all construction verticals, that we were engaged with solving their problems. And, it was a sweet spot for us because there were so many of them. It just seemed like a majority of the module. There was still healthcare and, finance and services. There was a lot of that too. But, the big mix was really contractors. And, I had some great relationships that I developed over the 17 years that I was in that space. So, some unique relationships that have come from that, and, some background that's really helped me in this role at Top Contractor School.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned all that because having a background in sales is so helpful for helping contractors who saw a lot of them will struggle with sales, as I'm sure you know. But I didn't know that you actually like had that kind of that soft spot when you were in Verizon for contractors, which makes sense because now I'm going to ask you, and I've been excited to ask you this since you agreed to come on. A lot of the people who listen to this show And just even like the people that are kind of following along what we're doing here at Stripe and the YouTube stuff, a lot of people that are reaching out are like, I've already got a full-time corporate job, but I want to start this. So that was essentially you, man. Like you were full-time at Verizon. How did this happen? How did you get mixed up with Brian Hess and the Pavement Group and Top Contractor School? And how did that ultimately lead to you taking the plunge and leaving corporate?
Yeah. Yeah, so crazy story, man. But Brian and I go way back over 20 years that we've known each other. He and I were peers. We both used to lead retail stores for Verizon. Along the way, Brian moved into the B2B channel and took a manager position, and I followed him. I loved what he was doing from a culture standpoint, coaching. He was really a mentor for me, in the retail channel of leading, retail sales team. So I looked up to him and, valued his opinion. So I always followed what he did. And when he moved to Florida and left Verizon at that point to go into construction, I kept up with his story and, his path and what he was doing. And about 2 years ago, my wife Joyce started to work for Brian as he was here at the TCS group. So she came on board, and maybe that was a way for him to kind of reel me in, right? He was setting the hook and bringing me in, but I love the culture of helping people and kind of everything that the community was about. Joyce and I have for the longest time had this feeling of we want to give back and help others. We've been fortunate through my career and our life that we've been able to do that. Things like starting a scholarship at my high school. It's the little stuff that you can do for people and give back to either the community or to people in specifically. It's just really been our calling, I think. And when I found this, it was just the culture of helping people made a ton of sense for me. So, through a lot of prayer and the thought process of, gosh, do I leave a comfort zone of 27 years and a substantially developed career in corporate America to go and work for a contractor community that is really kind of in a growth mode. It was really appealing for me because I knew that I would be able to help the people that are coming on board to the community. I've got a really good engagement with a lot of contractors across the country and as well as into Canada that I've been networking with now that I've been here, and really kind of learning more of what their problems are and being able to connect the dots between what we do, where we can add value, and how it really helps them to benefit, short term or long term. It's the right place for me, man. Looking back, it just is crystal clear why I'm here now. And I can't say, how happy I am to be part of this community because I get to help people every single day. And it's just really important for me to be able to do that. So, yeah, man, I'm in the right spot for sure.
I'm so on one hand, like when you joined on basically full time in 2023, like Top Contractor School, it has the image of being really super well established because everything is very well done. I mean, it's the vision that Brian has for it is pretty strong. But at the end of the day, like it in the time perspective, it's really not. Like was it difficult to like take the plunge? Were you concerned of any risk with it?
Um,
You laugh. Why are you laughing?
Well, I think it's my stubbornness that I mean, dude, if I'm gonna do something, I've got a tattoo on my arm that's a light switch. So the light switch is in the on position, and when I do something, it's on, like it's full tilt. I'm gonna chase after 110%, full of passion, and I'm gonna make it a success. It's interesting. When I was leaving corporate America, they said to me, I had an exit interview with HR. And they said, you've been here long enough, Jim, that if you wanted to come back in 6 months, you'd be eligible to reapply. I said, I'm going to be very candid with you and have this conversation now so we don't ever have to have it again. But I'm a winner. I win. I'm not coming back. I'm leaving, and I'm going to make this, what it's going to be. And it's going to be a success because that's what I do. So, I mean, listen, dude, I'll tell you, I'm very confident because I know that when I focus on something, that it's going to be successful. I'll outwork the problem. I think that's one of the things, like I keep telling Joyce, like I'm grinding right now. This is the grind. You got to do it every single day. And then at some point down the road, you're going to look back and go, man, you did what you said you were going to do. You've grown the community, you've developed the processes, the stuff that we're doing on the back end operationally. Like there's a lot that's been going into, not just growing the community, but developing the onboarding process, creating a process that we can add value with suppliers and sponsors, bring in people who are critical to our members that can be value adds for them, really expanding in that supplier footprint of people who are out there can provide tertiary services that are value adds for our members. They can strengthen the relationship that our community has. There's a lot of stuff that we're working on right now that's really big. So,
I mean, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. I mean, you're wearing the DeWalt TCS combo shirt today. Dynapack is mentioned frequently. Verizon is mentioned. Like, these are no jokes, man. Like, this is some serious stuff. So if somebody was, so just so you know, like whenever we put out content on this channel, not so much in the podcast interviews, but like on our YouTube and stuff, I will often like make mention of something like Top Contractor School, or at the very least the value of finding a community. But I'm curious from your perspective, because you've been in it now like literally full time for 2 years. If you were to, I'm basically going to ask you to pitch it. Like if somebody's listening to this and like, why would I join something like that? What would you say is the top level view of the value of the community?
The community in itself is really kind of just one component of what we do, but I think it's a ton of value because what I suggest to people is that it really accelerates your failure rate. So instead of you banging your head against the wall 4 or 5 different times with a problem that you're having, like there's a community of contractors that are across North America that you can reach out to on our custom app and say, hey guys, gals, I'm having this problem. Has anybody done this before? Have you dealt with this? Or, I'm seeing this, or can you help me with that? Like there's somebody that's going to drop everything and, bend over backwards to really help you. And that's one of the unique things about our community is just the culture. And it's not something that, we push out information and say, hey, you have to do this. Like it's just developed naturally because everybody that's here wants to help and give back to others because of the value that's been provided by the community. So when somebody helps someone, they're going to turn around and repay that and help, somebody that's maybe in a similar situation with a different occurrence. So, I mean, if I had to tell somebody like the most unique thing that you're going to find is the culture of the community and just the way that people drop everything to help each other. It's super unique, man. And it's one of the things as I started talking to members, when I first got here, that was one of the things that stood out to me. Like Anthony Abruzzi, I can't tell you as many times as I would like to how important he's been to helping some of our prospective members understand the value of our community. And I tell people, Cam, like, don't take it from me. Like, talk to one of our members. Like, I'll connect you with somebody that's local. Yeah. And it's interesting. Like, I'll shoot him a text, and he's like, "Yeah, send me their number." I'm like, well, okay, but you don't have to call him right now. He's like, "No, I'll call him right now." I'm like, dude, it's good. Like, you can do it tomorrow, but thank you. And it's just those kind of people that are in our community that whether it's me or whether it's another member or somebody that's a prospective client of ours, he'll drop everything and just bend over backwards to go, hey, here's where I'm getting value. Here's what they've done for me. Here's where they're helpful to you. And it's a conversation not from me saying, hey, buy our services, but from him saying, here's where I've benefited from the services they provide. So yeah, man, it's really it's the one thing that I think is super critical for our prospective members to understand. And the people that are here, they get it. They're the ones that are engaged in the app, and they're the ones that are answering the questions that come up. And it's unique to watch because I'm at my desk and I get all these pop-ups throughout the day of different posts or notifications, and I'm in every single space that's in the group. So I see them all and hear them all, and it's really cool to be a part of.
Yeah. Can I tell you a funny story about you? It's short, but I sometimes associate like a specific piece of content with with a person. So, and I know content is big for you, right? Like, and so just as an example, like we had Keith Calloway Jr. on the podcast very recently, actually. The episode came out not long ago. And there's one piece of content that K&L Industries has put out, and I talked about it in the interview with him, it was like, dude, I think it was like 4 years ago. They put out like a Facebook reel or like a 2-minute video kind of thing of, they were interviewing one of the guys on the crew, and he basically was like, yeah, I was in jail for like 10, 15 years, didn't think I'd actually get a shot somewhere. And he's like, I'll basically be here forever. And he's still there, of course. And I was like, doesn't matter the moment I hear K&L Industries, that's what I think. I think of the guy who was in jail, who's bought into the culture, right? So do you know what the gym content video is?
I have a feeling, but
okay. All right. So the gym content video is Jim with the backpack, because he's always got the backpack, literally walking in Pittsburgh, going to construction sites, going up to contractors with his backpack on, with TCS like on the logo and everything, and basically saying, hey, what's going on? Like, how's business? What problems are you facing? And I was like, if you look at the ROI from just like, hey, Jim, drive membership, that's, that's going 1-to-1, like with people who don't even know you, and you just literally walking up with a backpack going, hey, let's jam for a bit. That is like cemented in my brain. So the question I have for you is, like, when you do that crazy grassroots level, like show up with the backpack type stuff, what are you hearing? Like what's happening with contractors? Because it's not just paving contractors you talk to. It's not just like stripers and pavers, but like what's the common problem you hear when you're doing that?
Yeah, I mean, the number one, especially on job sites, is skilled labor. It's not the top thing that I hear routinely from contractors, but on a job site, that's probably the biggest challenge that's out there. So whether it's retention of skilled labor or it's acquisition of, putting the right ass in the right seat, I think that's probably the biggest thing that people struggle with, and I think that's really across every construction vertical. Unfortunately, the trades are one of those things that I think over a long period of time have really not had the level of attention that they should. And it's like you go to a 4-year degree and go get a college education and come out and make 20 grand or 30 grand at an entry level job, and that's like the thing to do, and that's what people were kind of directed towards. But there's people that go to a trade school and they come out and they're making over 100 grand a year. Like I think there's a huge miss, in that skilled labor. So it's one of the reasons that we paired up with DeWalt in partnership. They have a Grow the Trades, and they do a lot with technical schools, and some of the training and engagement that they have, I think is really foundational to help drive engagement in construction. Which is really unique, and some of the programs that they offer are really special too. So, anything that we can do to help drive the amount of people who are interested in construction, I think is critical. But yeah, man, that skilled labor, I think, is one of the big challenges. Outside of that, on a job site, another thing that would come up routinely is customer expectations. There's always an ever-changing dynamic around customer expectations, whether it's a change order or punch list, or some of the things that you run into on a typical job that you're doing. And again, it doesn't matter what the construction vertical is, there's always something that comes up that either is problematic or goes south, or is beyond the scope that the customer perceived as what they were getting, and now it's required that they do additional work. So I think that would be job site specific. That's another one.
Man, it's wintertime right now, which for us at our company here in beautiful Prince George, BC, Canada, it's great because we can go plow snow and make money. But for a lot of you guys listening, you have striping businesses. You don't want to get into snow removal. I totally get it. It's not for everyone. How do you make money in the winter? That is the question. Our friends at Mighty Line can help you. So we are a proud believer, and they sponsor this show for a reason. The product is awesome. So if you don't know what Mighty Line is, go to the website. In fact, I'm going to give you a link where they will actually give you a free sample kit, mightylinetape.com/stripe it. mightylinetape.com/stripe it. They're going to send you a free sample kit of some of their most commonly used products. This product can be used indoors during the wintertime in industrial facilities, warehouses. They have custom work, so much stuff that your customers will love, and it will help keep their facilities safe too. So if you don't want to go plow snow, but you'd still like to make money in the winter, mightylinetape.com/stripe it. That will let them know that you were listening, and they will send you a free sample kit of their products. Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, you're always going to have some problems in business, but I think people listening to that are going to go, yep, skilled labor. Yep. Yeah. So, I drink the Kool-Aid, obviously. Like, I've been in TCS now for, I don't even know. I think I just hit 2 years, truthfully. It was early 2023, and I was even familiar with before. So, like, I'm not an affiliate. Like, I don't get paid to refer people. But if you're listening to this, you probably should go talk to Jim and get some info about it. But a question for you about people who are like, maybe they're not just, they don't feel like they're ready for top contractor school, which I have opinions on, and I'm sure you do too. I've actually talked to people who are like, yeah, I don't think I'm ready, which is hilarious because like, it's like some like cult or something where like, yeah, you have to have a specific requirement. Like, no, you get in the group to feel like you're ready. Anyways, if somebody is listening who's like, maybe that's not for me, I don't know, maybe I'll check it out. But like, what's something that you see kind of low hanging fruit, I guess? What's a low hanging fruit thing you see across contractors that like, man, if they just did this, it would make their life so much easier.
Yeah, it's time management. 100%. So every contractor that I talk to, I mean, 97%, I'll be candid. There's a couple that get it, but I think really kind of working in the business, not on the business, is something that's routine. So, there's, whether it's second generation or, you started this business right out of high school because you were passionate about whatever trade that you're in. There's people that find comfort in doing the trade and not really going out and selling or going and running the business or the back office stuff that's necessary. I mean, if you think about it, that's why we're here. I mean, we coach to growing and scaling your business. We don't tell you how to hammer the nails. Yeah, I talked to a guy the other day who was telling me like, hey, at 3 o'clock every day, I go to the gym and I work out for an hour. Okay. Like, that's when we do our weekly calls at 3 o'clock on Wednesdays. So you can't hop on the call because you're going to the gym at that point. So you're prioritizing your fitness, which, don't take it the wrong way, is important. Being, physically fit and mentally fit is really kind of part of you being a bigger picture, to your business. But on the same hand, if you are paying us for help, then leverage the help that we give you now. And I told him, I said, look, that's great if 3 o'clock is your workout time and you want to do that every day, and that's a priority for you, and we're not, then I get it. But use the recorded call content in the app. Like, you can go back in at 10 o'clock at night and watch that recorded call and extract value from that. You don't get to participate, so maybe you're not getting the full experience, but at least you can understand the content and what was covered. So, things like that, like prioritizing your time, I think is a challenge. I feel like people get in that comfort zone of like, oh, I'm a carpenter, I'm going to go out and frame houses. And then they get in that very narrow-minded, like, okay, this is the construction piece. And then the sales go, because they're not focused on that. They're focused on hammering nails. So you've got to have that cycle of, I'm going to hammer nails now, but I got to go out and sell. So there needs to be a balance of, growth and generating revenue, as well as doing the trade. So there needs to be a happy medium in, where you're working and how you're allocating that time.
Man, I agree. I've seen that in my business. Like, something I've said a lot is the hardest thing for a leader to do is not do, right? Because you're used to being the doer, right? You make it happen. You paint the parking lot, you frame the house, you pave the park. Like, I totally get it. What's like one of your favorite pieces of advice or like mindset changes, do you think, for someone to go from the doer to the leader?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole mindset of, the rising tide floats all boats. So if you're trying to float the boat by yourself, you need everybody that's on the boat to rise with you. And by having a team and leveraging the team and all of the value that they bring to the organization, like that's where you're going to be successful. You can't continue to do everything yourself. Excuse me. You need to rely on others to be able to help you grow. And until you give up some of that trust, or, I'll say, there's an attention to detail maybe that an owner has versus an employee. I call that ownership. So, maybe there's a level of that ownership that's a little bit different, but if you trust your people and give them the ability to make mistakes and learn from them, you're going to grow as an organization. So, be willing to give people, a little bit of grace. And then when you do, your entire organization is going to elevate.
Yeah. So, I mean, 2 years is a long time. I know you weren't in TCS in like the early days. Yeah. Yeah. But in your 2 years, and you don't have to name names or anything, but is there one example of someone who's really embraced it and you've seen the changes and the positive ROI in themselves and their business? Like what, like, what does it look like?
Yeah, I mean, just the mindset, I think, is really the shift. So, when you come in and you're skeptical, when you're here for a couple months and you're skeptical and you're thinking, well, I don't know if this is a fit. Like Joyce says it all the time. This is an investment, not only in time, but also in money. You're not going to put money into the vending machine and get something out that month, right? You need to invest for the long term, and you need to learn as you be a perpetual learner. So I think the people who come in and really put the time and energy into what we're coaching and how we're helping people, they're the ones that see that return on their investment. And there's one guy that specifically stands out that it's really fresh in my mind because it was just a relative conversation of, hey, I was really skeptical when I started. Thank you for continuing, to be engaged with me and get me on board and, make me feel like I'm part of the family because, now I'm expanding my business. My family is benefiting from the growth that we've seen in our business. Me personally, I'm growing and I feel like I've benefited. So, it's not just us helping one person, it's us helping the entire organization and then all of the tertiary components that go along with that, the family, their extended relationships with their friends. It's a lonely place in being an entrepreneur. Most people that are entrepreneurs don't have friends who are entrepreneurs. They have W-2 friends that, are working in a corporate job or, something that they do from 9 to 5 and, they cash out and they're done for the weekend. And, it's not the dynamic that, a business owner or entrepreneur has. And that's the uniqueness of what we do is we give people like that a community and a place that they can be part of something bigger.
Yeah. Have I ever told you what it was for me? Like what made me do it?
No, I'm interested.
It's basically what you just said. I just call it decision fatigue. So like you start something because a lot of the people in the group, right? Like we basically started from nothing, which sounds really dramatic, but I just mean like, there was no, when I started my striping business, it's now a pavement business, but there was no plan. It was just, make some money and you grow it and you hire that first person and you get that first 5-figure contract and you get your first 6-figure contract. And then just things start growing and you just make all the decisions and yet you bring people into your company that help you and can, but especially in the early days, you just get used to making all of the decisions. And I'm comfortable doing that, but I'm also a human and fatigue sets in after a while because you just get used to making every single decision and it just gets exhausting. And I kind of was like, you know what? Whether it's one-on-one, which I'm going to ask you about here in a second, or like one of many in a group setting, you just don't have to like figure out all those decisions by yourself anymore, right? And so one of the cool things I noticed in TCS was, and this is newer, is the executive coaches. So, you want to give us like a 2-minute rundown on how that works?
Yeah. Yeah. So our inner circle legacy group, you get unlimited one-on-one coaching. We've got 10 executive coaches that are on the team. There are 7 of the executive coaches that are running 8-figure construction companies actively in the US. So you've got a great group of those folks. Our director of learning and development is one of our executive coaches. He does a ton with talent optimization, which I kind of put it into the bucket of hiring, recruiting, employee coaching. He does everything based on predictive index and behavior based. So it's really unique and different for people. I've been through a 3-day training with him. I've sat in on, other half-day sessions. It's definitely unique, but I can tell you it's super scary because of how accurate that is. So, two questions that you answer with a bunch of different behaviors on how you perceive yourself. And man, it's crazy. Like, even from a relationship standpoint, my wife and I did it. And I said, I feel like Eric's been living with us for the last 20 years because it is right on the money, and how we interact, how we engage each other. So, he's one of our coaches. We have a health and wellness coach, and then I provide some of the sales coaching for the community. So that rounds out the 10 of us. Yeah, really a good group of people. And, it's really cool too, because it's a diverse group of men and women who want to help each other and help others to succeed. So, everybody has that mindset of what can I do to help you? So if you're having challenges like that one-on-one session that you book, maybe initially it's a great conversation to learn about their business, but they need to learn about yours. They need to be actively participating in, helping you from a guidance and to properly address the challenges that you're facing. So, yeah, we book those right through our website. We do it in 30-minute increments. So it's not a huge time suck. You don't have a 2-hour conference call that you're digging through financials and, you're going through your systems and processes manual with us. It's a short conversation that we have. There's generally an action item or takeaway that you have, some homework, if you will. You'll go back and work on that, and you'll book your next coaching session from there. So I've had some really unique calls with people on the sales side. I mean, something simple as developing a sales tracker to create some awareness within the sales team, something that's foundational that, you would think that others, would grasp. And it's like, hey, we aren't doing it right now. What do we do? Where do we start? There's people in that regard. And then, there's some people who are advanced that are using something like a Zoom Info license to, integrate a prospecting list over into HubSpot, and they're using that for outbound marketing campaigns. So, really being able to coach to that and have those conversations. So it's extreme on both ends, man. But the part where I find that I can help people is really just listening to what they're talking about and where they see challenges, either with themselves or with their team, and jumping in and doing some follow-up calls and some on the spot coaching with people. I've had sales reps jump on some of those coaching sessions, and it's been really insightful for them being able to be part of that call. And I give them firsthand feedback. Like, we did a session of overcoming objections. For me, I feel like it's reflexive and it's just behavioral. For them, it was like they were hanging on every word and writing everything down. And I said, once it comes out, it's going to be different the next time I say it, because I'm just reacting based on what I hear. And,
Yeah.
it's kind of second nature for me, but I've been doing it for my entire life. So, it's different for people that are just starting out in sales, like that conversation was. But man, I love the opportunity to give somebody a tool for their backpack that they can use on a day-to-day basis. And, those are the things where I love being engaged one-on-one with people. So yeah, but yeah, 10 executive coaches, man. And I feel like everybody's in the same spot of trying to help someone, win at the end of the day. So
Yeah. So in my experience here, a little plug again. I don't get paid for this, Jim. I don't want to get paid for this, but it's yeah. There's the inner circle members can book one of those 10 people, absolutely. But of the 40-ish other members, I think you really have 50 coaches, because some of those things you just said, like tracking your sales numbers, that's a deep rabbit hole I went down basically in like Q2 last year. It's like, hey, we're not, I can't get predictable enough results because we're not tracking the numbers. And it was one of the members, Jeremy, who, like, after the inner circle call, I sent him one message, same thing. It's like, yeah, give me 10 minutes and I'll call you. 15-minute phone call later and one email, one resource later. That one resource, we've kind of shaped it for our company. It's completely helped us. It's like gives us complete like clarity into what we're trying to do week over week. And like, so yeah, you get coaches, you also get members. Like, man, I was just chatting with Daniel right this morning, and like these people just pick up the phone at no hesitation. It's pretty unreal.
Right. Yep, exactly. Yeah. So timing wise, I had a 6:30 a.m. call with Jeremy one morning, and it was during a morning session that it's not really on my schedule normally for those hours, but
Sure.
we were trading messages in the app back and forth, and I said, "Dude, I'm up early. I get up every morning at 5. Like, let's grab a morning session." So yeah, I think it was like a 6 or 6:30 a.m. call that we had. So I'm willing to work outside of the norm, and I think everybody here is too. So
Cool. Well, we're gonna put your cell phone in the show notes. No, I'm just joking. But we are gonna put we're gonna put ways for people to find you in the show notes, so people can find that. But if somebody is listening to this and is like, man, that sounds like something I need. I got the decision fatigue. I do need help with skilled labor. I don't have those resources, and somebody wants to check it out. What would you recommend? Where do you want people to go find more information about it?
yeah, I mean, our website is good. It's got a bio for each of the coaches. So you can go to topcontractorschool.com, click on the coaches tab, and then you'll get a bunch of good content from each of the coaches, and kind of what their specialization is. But I mean, across our social media platforms, which I'm sure you'll post in the link. I know I shared mine with you, but man, check us out there. Like, that's a good way to see some of the stuff that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. We've got a ton of podcasts that we produce from our media team. Social media is one thing that we excel at. So, check that out. If you are interested and really interested in having a conversation, I'd be more than happy to host you on one of our weekly inner circle coaching calls that's trainer led. So, I'd extend that invite as well as a good way to check out what we do on a weekly basis for our community. I think you'll probably walk away with 2 or 3 things that you go, wow, I'm going to start doing that. So, it's not out of the ordinary for a new member to hop on. And I get a message going, that I took these 3 things and, I'm going to start working on them right away. Like we had a topic, we talked about 6-week touch points for your customers. And, you start to get those touch points from one of our members that they're touching you, and it's like, oh, okay, you did pay attention. So the uniqueness of what we do and seeing it in action, those are something simple that you can take away as a way to be engaged and connected to your clients. And that really just drives the value of your organization and how you're engaged with them in the community. It's unique and different that a lot of people don't think about, but that's just one little topic. You get all kind of those things on the weekly calls that we have. So just the background. So the weekly calls that we do each month is one of our core competencies. So things like leadership, culture, community, communication. Think about some of the back end stuff like systems, processes, reporting, finance, sales, marketing, technology. Those are how we base the monthly call topic. And then each week is going to be a granular deep dive into a subtopic of that category. So, when you get on those calls, you're going to be able to engage. It's on Zoom and we do record those. So it goes into our custom app after the call. So we publish it into the app the next day. So if you did miss one, you can always go back in and self-consume that. But the best way to get the experience is to be active, engaged on camera, participating, collaborating with the peer group that's on. But outside of that, man, a ton of good stuff that's on those calls. If you're interested in hopping on one, just reach out and let me know. Be glad to have a conversation with you about what we do and then, invite you to one of those calls. Glad to touch base afterwards for questions that come up. So yeah, I think that's a really good opportunity for people to get firsthand experience with us and what we do.
Amazing, amazing. Well, man, yeah, we're gonna put all the links so people. I don't think TCS is that hard to find. Like the website's a great place to start, but all the content is there. It's easily accessible. Yeah, anyone who's listening to this and wants more information, you should go talk to Jim. Or I'll give you the 2 cents version too. I'm in it, so like I'll give you the real info. Yeah. I don't get paid to do it, but I think it's fantastic. So, man, thanks for coming on, and yeah, we're gonna make sure that people are funneled. So if you guys want to go check it out, topcontractorschool.com. Jim, thanks for coming on, man.